Hi, everybody. Oh boy, I am so tired. Yeah. So, so yesterday was, Easter. I don't know why I made air quotes. Yesterday was Easter. We don't, I haven't really identified as a Christian like ever, but certainly not for, my adult life. But my dad, I don't know what age he started it, but he started this family tradition where he'll make these notes, like treasure hunt notes, where it's like you'll do one and it'll lead you to over the bathroom, and there'll be another note and it'll lead you over here or whatever. And when my kids got old enough to walk, we started doing with them too. In fact, there's a video up on my son's Links Plays YouTube channel that I have like 2 videos on. I haven't really been making any videos for it, where I filmed them doing last year's egg hunt, and this year we did another one, and it was pretty cute. I decided not to film it because I just didn't have the energy to make the house spotless. So, but yeah, yeah. So we did that yesterday. It was pretty cute. Unfortunately, the frustrating part is like the kids, of course, want to eat like all the candy, and so I'm like having to dole it out slowly because kids go crazy if they have too much too much candy, and that's something that like my husband and I just sort of disagree with. Like he doesn't really keep it in mind as much. I have to be like, honey, maybe stop giving him chocolate and stuff like that, especially since I'm years old. I have to deal with the craziness. Like he'll let him have it over breakfast, and then he'll go to work, and I'll just be home with the kids. But yeah, being at work, he actually had to go to work for like an hour last night because some pipe burst or something, and he had to rush in and take care of it. Much easier at his job that he's had since July than when he worked in Portland proper and had to drive like an hour there, and they'd still occasionally call him, stop messing with everything, dog. Anyway, so yesterday I was going to go out and hold signs with the teachers at my kids' school to try to dissuade people from falling for bullshit propaganda and voting no on this school tax that's not even a new tax. It takes an old tax and it repurposes the money or whatever. But I never got information about where they were going to do it, and so I was like, okay, I guess I'll just do the egg hunt and then spend the rest of the day playing video games. So that's what we did. We finally started Dying Light 2 with my friend, and it turns out that at the beginning of Dying Light 2, just like with Dying Light 1, you have to do this whole tutorial thing, single player, before you can play with each other. And so we're doing that, and it's just taking forever to get through this single player thing. And then my friend was doing it, and his game crashed, and he's like, I'll finish it another time. So we didn't play a lot of Dying Light 2. And then he and I started playing Ark, and Matthew was pretty much done playing Ark again, so I joined my friend's tribe, and he's like a power gamer, so he already has like the best everything. The only thing he doesn't really have is a lot of breeding pairs, because breeding is really helpful in Ark, but it does take a lot of time, and especially because the server that he started on that I'm playing on with him doesn't have some of the mods that I've gotten used to that make it a lot easier to breed. Like there was one, that we had on the last server and everything that will auto capture. First of all, there's like the cryos, but there's no cryo sickness, so you can just keep picking them up and throwing them out without having to wait like 3 minutes between putting them out. And also you can set it to auto grab mammals, because there's egg layers and then there's mammals. And the egg layer, you can just put the hatchery, which will grab the egg as soon as it lands. But with mammals, without this other mod, you have to be not physically, but you have to be in game there when the baby is born, so you can claim it and then either raise it or manually cry it or whatever. Otherwise, it's going to wander around and starve. And luckily on this server, the rates are higher for maturation and stuff like that. In vanilla Ark and in official Ark, like you'll literally have like 20 or so hours real time that someone has to be feeding and keeping an eye on that mammal. Otherwise, it's going to get born and you're going to, lose that progress and everything. But anyway, so yeah, played Ark. Stayed up too late again because I was trying to tame a pair of shadow mains so I could start breeding them. And with shadow mains, you have to catch fish, and then during the day the shadow mains will sleep, and they'll go like sleep to sleep, get up, walk around, sleep to sleep, get up, walk around, and you have to very carefully creep up next to them, give them food, run away, and make sure they don't see you, because if they see you and they start chasing you, you lose all the taming progress and you have to start over. And if they see another animal and they chase after it, they'll lose all the taming. But like it's pretty challenging. And so I was doing that, and also I was listening to more Vosh videos. I had watched like one or two Shoe on Head videos after seeing her on Vosh's thing a little bit, and I was like, there's something she's saying in these videos that I'm like, I don't know about that, but for the most part it's not really that bad. But again, I only watched like 2 of them, and they're the more recent ones. Apparently her like older ones were pretty right-wing light. But then we got to the issue of Kyle Rittenhouse, and she made this like bonkers tweet where she was like saying like, you can just admit that you were wrong, that he's innocent, blah blah blah. So I found a Vosh video where he was like really breaking down like everything she was wrong about. And he was complaining that like people see him as like this arbiter of her because he's had her on his videos before, therefore he can control her or whatever. And he's like, if I could control her, why would she still keep doing all these garbage takes if I could stop her from doing that? It is weird though, like when she's not on the video or whatever, he'll like dress her down, but then when she is on it, he's a lot nicer to her, which I get. I mean, it's hard for me to be confrontational, even if I really disagree with someone. Like, it's hard for me to be confrontational, but his whole thing is being like harsh, tough love kind of thing. So it's just kind of weird for him to be so differential to her. And of course, you look in the comments and it's like, oh, it's because he wants to fuck her, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's so reductive. But anyway, so back to kids. So yeah, I stayed up too late last night because I was listening to a debate on cancel culture, and as usual, like the fucking Republicans are just like, all the conservatives are being censored and all the liberals and blah blah blah, and it's just like, I can attest, I can personally attest that it's not just conservatives that are getting banned, and in fact I see a lot more conservative content on YouTube that hasn't gotten banned than mine, but I'm seeing it from the perspective of my banned videos. And videos that don't mention COVID getting banned for medical misinformation or like hate speech and like all those nonsense bogus charges that anyway, so I stayed up too late, and the last, I feel like, months, putting Aiden down, putting the kids down for their bed, but especially like, I don't know, so we keep going through these phases where putting them down is really fucking difficult, and both of them will be like, oh, I'm tired, and like I have like, I'll say it, I'll have some PTSD, like if I hear them crying in the middle of the night, I'm like, whoa, because so many times it's turned out that one was sick, one had fever or whatever, and of course, middle of a pandemic, still have a 3-year-old that hasn't been able to get fucking vaccinated because fucking FDA and CDC and everything are just asleep at the wheel. I know there's more into it, blah, blah, blah. Pfizer hasn't submitted for, anyway. Obviously I have a lot of anxiety when they're sick. I mean, even pre-pandemic, my kids were a lot younger. I would still get stressed out every time they got sick because I do have health anxiety where it's like, anytime anything is wrong, I immediately think like, it's cancer or it's a heart attack, like it's really hard not to think stuff like that. Anyway, so, it's risky putting him to bed, but then I have the brain fart, the dichotomy, that's not really the right word, the difficult choice where I put them down and then it's like, do I try to immediately sleep and then start the next day and have the kids around, even though Aiden's in daycare now, first of all, we have the stress of the teacher calling me and being like, can you come get him, like several times. That hasn't happened since I told the administrator, I'm like, either kick him out of the daycare or stop calling me because you're giving me too much anxiety. But I feel bad because like they keep telling me that he's like, he really doesn't like transitioning. Like if he's playing outside and it's time to have circle time or whatever, he just does not want to do it. And I'm like, yeah, I know. He's stubborn as fuck. Even though he's gone during the day now, except when like Link has spring break or Aiden has, we thought it was lice, but after like washing him and brushing his hair, blow drying it and brushing his hair and stuff, we haven't seen it again, so I don't know what it was. We saw bugs for a day. Anyway, when they're both gone, like, I try to actually get work done. Like, I'm filming this vlog right now instead of working, which is not good, but, you know, I figure I'm making content. That's my excuse. I'm making content. Oh, speaking of that, the live stream, but I'll say it later. Yeah. So then, you know, every time I put him to bed, it's like, do I immediately go to bed myself and not really have any time to like play video games or something uninterrupted, especially with like Ark, because you can't pause Ark. So I'll be trying to tame shadow mains and I'll be in the middle of taming them, and fucking the kids will have a meltdown, and I'll have to like go find a corner and pray I don't get attacked and take care of it or whatever. So, you know, I often make the bad, the bad decision of staying up too late. Especially with Ark, because it's a time sucker. It's one of those games where you're just like, I'm gonna just do one more thing, and then all of a sudden it's midnight or later. So we put the kids down. Matthew went to bed, and I had to get up a few times in the like 2 or 3 hours between him going to bed and me finally getting off Ark. And then I go to bed, and Aiden had already been waking up. You know, like I said, like every half hour to hour or whatever, like, oh, I'm scared, I want the light on, blah, blah, blah. I actually eventually just like, before I got off Ark, I just was like, fine, fuck it. And I turned the full light on in their room, and luckily Link still slept through it. Link has been a heavy sleeper since he started school, which is nice. Although yesterday, you know, was Sunday, so he didn't have school, but, so like I had the light on and everything like that. And I tried to go to bed at midnight. And Aiden, my 3-year-old, would not stop crying and wanting things all fucking night. Like, he's been doing this thing for a while where he'll say he's scared of something. Like, oh, I'm too scared to sleep. But he'll do it for everything. He'll do it like, I'm too scared to wash my hands after going to the bathroom. I'm too scared to not take my food out of the kitchen to eat, you know, to eat it in the living room. We're trying to keep them from dropping food for the dogs, or just like anytime he doesn't want to do something, it's I'm scared. So, you know, I don't really put too much stock in it, but you know, he keeps doing this thing. I was like, I'm scared to sleep at night, and it's like, okay, you are sharing a bed. Like, they actually have a bunk bed, but they tend to crawl into the same bed together. Like, you're sharing a bed with your brother. You have all these stuffed animals. You have the light on. You have music. Like, what else can I do? And he's like, I need to sleep in your bed, guys. And it's like, every single time we try to share a bed with him, he just kicks and is restless and everything like that. Plus, I think it's better for kids to sleep in their own beds past, you know, past infancy. It's a different culture than a lot of cultures out there where, you know, people will just all share a big bed or whatever. But I just think that, first of all, we don't get any sleep if he's in the bed with us, and I don't know. I just think it's better for him to be more independent. But anyway, so last night, yeah, he fucking every half hour some new bullshit, and I was crying. I was like, Aiden, I need to sleep, and he's just like, okay, I'll let you sleep. Half an hour later, mommy, and I'm just like, and so I snapped. At one point at like 4 a.m., I screamed at him, what do you want me to do? Because I'll tell you what, sleep deprivation literally drives people insane. And both kids, when they were newborns, babies, you know, it was really, really hard. When Link was a baby, we moved up here when he was about 4 months old, and then for almost a year, we lived in an apartment building, and my parents lived in the same apartment, but they were on a different floor. And like, I have so many memories of like 4 a.m. after just dealing with Aiden or Link all night, dropping him off at my parents and being like, I need to sleep. And my mom was not thrilled about it because my parents were already older. My mom had me in her 40s, and my dad's like 7 years older than her. So my whole life, people thought my parents were my grandparents, and they like never had that much energy, and just, yeah. But anyway, like, I just would desperately drop him off. But then, you know, Aiden's infancy, my mom's health had really started to degrade a lot. And so it was a lot more, you know, me doing most of the stuff. And as far as Matthew goes, he does more than most dads, I think. He just doesn't really understand. He trusts the kids to be more responsible than they are. And I'm home with them all the time. Like, you know, Aiden only just started daycare like 2 months ago. So up until that, he was home with me 24/7. And, you know, Link has school now since August, but up until that, I was home with him 24/7. But yeah, so I got so fucking frustrated at Aiden because it's just like I give him what he want, he'd complain again. If I ignored him, he'd just scream and bang on the door. Like, what the fuck can I do? I tried laying next to him for a little bit, and he went back to sleep, but I couldn't sleep because I was just laying there like simmering with resentment. And it's not good to resent your children, but when you're so fucking tired, it's really hard to be rational. And I'm not saying, like, I've never had an urge to hurt them, thank God. You know, I've never felt any hesitation of, like, wanting to do bad things, which other parents have dealt with, so I'm really glad for that. But it's just like, God, I wish they had an off switch. I wish I could put them in a sleep mode like a computer, although I've actually never had good luck with putting computers in sleep mode. They always seem to wake themselves up, so I turn my electronics all the way off. Fucking Xbox likes to turn itself off, or turn itself on in the middle of the night. But yeah, so it's just, yeah, it's really hard. So I survived till morning and got Link off to school and dropped Aiden off at daycare and warned him that he's probably going to be more cantankerous today than usual because he also didn't sleep, you know, waking me up all the time. He didn't sleep either. Although he got a little bit of sleep between the cries, which is more than I can say for myself. And then I came home and then I tried to take a nap. I think I managed to finally fall asleep after like an hour of tossing and turning, and then I slept for an hour, and then the dog woke me up crying to get out. And so I was just like, fine, whatever, it's almost noon, so I'm gonna get up. So I got up, drank some coffee, and now I'm like trying to wake up enough to do something useful. My goal for today was I mostly got caught up in all my emails. Actually, like last week, did not catch up on my DMs because I got DMs on Instagram and on Twitter, and I have not even touched OnlyFans in like not a year, but a long time, and Patreon and stuff like that. And it's just like checking all those messages just takes so much out of me, and it's just, I'm trying to get better at that and like keep up on at least the email, because that's how I usually communicate with people, like trying to arrange interviews and stuff. And then I've got some people that I've talked to about doing interviews with, and I'm trying to get up the energy to write my questions for interviews with them, because when I interview somebody, I want to tailor it to them. You know, I want to review their other content and make the questions about them instead of just make them these generic, you know, whatever. And I am working on not interrupting them so much. You know, I've always called them interview conversations more than straight interviews, but I think that is ADD. It's, you know, self-diagnoses, like that was a real fun thing on Tumblr before Tumblr killed itself or whatever. It's like everyone was always diagnosing themselves with this, that, and the other thing. And I don't know, like I mentioned it before, but I started watching some of the other YouTubers that were later added to the featured creators list on VidCon, and there's like a couple of them on there that talk about having ADHD and stuff like that, and it's like, it's really hard to watch those videos and not be like, got that. And because our culture, you know, stigmatized mental health for so long, and still a lot of people stigmatize it or whatever, we don't really have conversations about what is ADHD, what is anxiety, what is blah, blah, blah. So, you know, it's hard to know the difference between like just normal feelings everybody goes through and actual anxiety. And, you know, I feel about like anxiety and stuff like that the same way I feel about autism, where I think everybody has at least some level of, you know, something going on. I don't think there's a perfectly normal baseline, you know, neuroatypical way of being, and that everyone that isn't like that is a deviant. Like, I think, you know, it's a spectrum. But anyway, and so, you know, wondering if I have ADD makes me wonder if the kids have it. But yeah, the interrupting people thing is apparently, it's a trait a lot of autistic people have, and it's definitely a trait that a lot of ADHD people have. And, you know, maybe again, I don't want to do the Tumblr thing of like, you know, self-diagnosing with all these neurological conditions, but I definitely feel like I'm somewhere on the autistic spectrum, and I may have ADD, which is a fun combination if true, because, you know, first of all, I'm very blunt, and I think I talked about it in another vlog or whatever, but the thing about a lot of autistic people, which I didn't really start to research until recently, is that a lot of times, like, people who don't have this trait who I guess aren't autistic, or at least don't manifest it in this way, you're not supposed to like make I statements. You're not supposed to talk about yourself, because it's considered like detracting the conversation away from someone. And I've always struggled with this because when someone is telling me something like, I don't know, flying gives me anxiety, and then I'll be like, oh, it gives me anxiety too. Like, in my mind, it's like I'm saying, like, I relate, I know how that feels, like I commiserate or whatever. But apparently, to neuroatypicals, this is seen as me being selfish and like taking the conversation away from them and onto me. And it's like, no, I'm not trying to like talk about myself. Like, I'm literally trying to like commiserate and be like, again, like, I understand and I hear you, and like, so it's just really frustrating to me because to me, there we go. It's really frustrating to me because I'm literally not, I'm trying to relate. I'm trying to have a good conversation with someone. I love learning about people. I love learning about friends and just like interesting people or whatever. Like, I'm happy when they tell me like personal stories or just personality traits or whatever. Like, it's, I don't know, to me, it's like gathering info, and it's interesting to me. So I don't know. But anyway, so, yeah, as far as the upcoming interviews go, I'm trying not to interrupt so much. And, that's the other thing with ADHD is that like a lot of people will, interrupt a lot. And for me, it was always like, I just want to get this thing out before I forget it. It wasn't like I'm trying to redirect the conversation with me. And so I'm trying to remind myself that like, it's not important that I add to every, add my own feelings to everything. And again, I'm not trying to say it as like a let's talk about me thing. It's literally just, I'm like trying to flavor the conversation with like, oh, I also experienced that, but please let's continue talking about you. I don't mean that sarcastic, man. Like, please, I'm just like throwing it in as like a tidbit. And so, you're not supposed to do that. So I don't know. I'm trying to work on it, trying to be more confident. I have this trait, and I've talked about it before or whatever, where it's like, I'm very talkative. I really like to like get to know people. I like to entertain people or whatever. And sometimes I'll be good at it. I guess, I mean, it seems like I'm good at it or whatever, where I'm talking to someone and they're talking back and everything like that. But then I'll like strike out and I'll accidentally say something too blunt or whatever. And then there's like this awkward pause, and then I just feel like shit for like the rest of the week, if not longer. Thinking back to that one thing I said is like, why did I say that? So it's a very high risk, high reward thing for me to like talk to people, not just it's strangers, but like also people that I consider friends, except I hesitate to call anyone a friend because I feel like people will abandon you as soon as you say the wrong thing. Then they just don't. They're like, oh, you were just a friend of convenience, and I can't use you anymore. So I don't know. I have a very low opinion of most humans. Anyway, so I am working on that. I have certain members among my regular followers, and I'm not trying to vague book. So if you're one of those, please don't feel like I'm vague booking. I'm just like, I'm not sure if you would prefer me to name you or not name you. There's one guy in particular who loves to tell me everything I do wrong all the time. And it's like, I'm aware of these things. I already hate myself over those. You really don't need to point them out. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, I'm going to try to formulate some questions about that and just hope that the coffee helps. Matthew also is tired because of Aiden, but he did go to bed sooner than me, so at least he got some hours of sleep. But all right. Yeah, that's about it. Wondering if I do have ADHD and if I pass it along to my kids, what I can do about it, how to not lose my fucking cool when I'm exhausted all the time, which, foolish me thinking it was mostly a newborn phase thing. Nope. Kids are fucking annoying forever. I stumbled on, I was like looking up parenting is hell just to see like what blog posts opened up and stuff like that. And there was one that was saying that like research shows that women, and it was, about mothers. I don't know, for some reason they didn't really talk about fathers, but I mean, let's be honest, a lot of fathers, even the better ones, are not as in tune to what's going on with the kids as the moms. Not all dads, whatever. Have higher rates of depression and stuff during their kids' teenage years than any other year in their life. So that's gonna be fun. I can't imagine. I can't imagine my kids as teenagers because they already like are stubborn as hell and argue with me everything like that. But at the same time, it's scary to think about them like, I don't know, doing drugs and stuff like that. Like it's like, how do I have honest conversations with them so they know the risks and try to dissuade them from doing it? Because if you just straight up forbid it, then it becomes forbidden fruit, and they're more likely to do it. I don't know. I'm definitely not going to do the, oh, don't tell them about, don't tell them about sex, don't tell them about gay, what it's like to be gay or whatever like that, and they'll just not do it. It'll just not occur to them. That doesn't fucking work. So that's really, don't do that. You got to try to inform them, and like I said, inform them of the risks, and just be like, if you do this thing, it might feel good in the moment, but these are all the consequences. All right. I'm gonna try to get to work and just make it to tonight and pray to fucking every god that's ever existed, ever might exist, ever was thought to exist. I'm an atheist, but yeah, I'm agnostic, not atheist. But point being, I'm gonna pray non-denominationally because I think prayer is useless. That Aiden lets me fucking sleep tonight because holy shit, I need sleep.